Raising Your Inner Voice with Jay Foss.
Hey, party people. Thank you so much for joining me. You're listening to Raising Your Inner Voice. I am your host, Jay Foss, and appreciate you coming along for this ride. Just wanted to let you know that my intention for this show, it is actually to bring community. It's to bring unity here in our community. The reason that I want to have this talk show that is more focused on listening is actually so that way we can all learn and grow together. I have this weird belief, and I think it makes me an oddity, but I think that we can learn and grow more. In fact, I think that if you are growing, I will naturally have a better life, right? So it's kind of like seeing externally affects me internally, and I think the vice versa of that is true as well. But I'm actually not going to waste too much more time talking myself because I do have a guest on the line. So I would like to bring in and thank Jennifer Freedson so much for being my guest. She was one of the co-founders of Chive Sustainable Events and Catering. Hey, Jen.
Hey, how are you, Jay?
I'm great.
How are you, everybody?
Thank you so much for joining. So the reason that I'm having you on is because you along with Lindsay, have decided to close Chive Catering. And I mean, COVID's affecting all of us, right? It's a topic that we are all talking about. And I think that presenting your option sends a message to all of us of, okay, well, hopefully we can find some peace in grappling with this. Not that the road that you're taking is exactly what I'm going to do. But before we even get into all of that, can you share with the listeners basically why you started Chive, how that happened, what you saw either in the market or something that you were responding to when you started Chive Catering Company?
Sure. Well, thanks for asking, and thank you very much for having me on. I love this show and what you're trying to accomplish, so I'm honored to be here. When Lindsay and my sister Jules and I started the business over 11 years ago, we all had a deep love for food, a deep love for community, a combination of newfound and deep-rooted connection to environment. And we just felt like there was a need for bringing people together in really special moments around food that was made with love and made from scratch and sourced from our community, so that we could really have a multifaceted life, essentially. So our business could feed us, it could feed our families, it could feed our friends who were working with us, it could feed really special moments. So nourishment was sort of this underlying tone, and there wasn't anybody else in the New England area really that was coming at it from a sustainable approach.
And have you always been a foodie? I mean, is this like a natural passion that this was just the next logical step, or was this truly the three of you coming together and just creating this? Like, where did you get this sense that just in talking with the three of you, or how did it actually unfold and come about?
That's a great question. So to answer your first question, I have always loved food, but didn't grow up in a household that had access to local food or quality food. And so whenever I had the opportunity to be around food that was sourced in a way that clearly was fresh, that was very exciting to me. And so that passion grew. But frankly, I wanted to be an architect for the longest time and thought I was going to go to school for being an architect. Ended up in interior design school at Endicott on the North Shore, and that's how I landed here. And my partner, Lindsay, and now just absolute best friend and family member, I feel like, she wanted to go to school to be in fine arts, but she too had a passion for food. So it felt like hospitality was really more of a side hustle for a long time. And ultimately what happened is about a year or so after college, when we left Endicott, there was a party in Boston that my sister was hosting for some people at Suffolk University, about 100 people coming in to listen to the VP of Timberland speak. And at the time, Timberland was especially positioning themselves as a conscious company. And so she just had this deep-rooted fear of hosting an event for 100 people with the CEO of a huge global company talking about being eco-conscious and having a traditional conference room with really basic college food and no ambiance. So she just basically phoned friends and said, Lynn's, Jen, will you guys help us out? And as friends, we showed up with a lot of love and a lot of great food and beautiful design elements, all sourced from scratch and made from scratch. And we, I think, left with 3 or 4 requests for pretty big parties that night. And that was sort of the spark that we could combine our passion for conscious thinking, good food, hospitality, and aesthetics. So the design, the art piece that Lindsay and I both loved so much really zippered together right in front of us. And I think that a sensibility or a value that we all hold is a wonder of the world, just being very in awe of the world and open to things that might come. And I think that because we were so open to opportunities, we had the ability to see that night was an opportunity and not just a one-off. So we took those cards and we called those people and basically we did those parties, even though we weren't doing that. So that's how it started.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So 2 things from what you're saying that I picked up on. One is, so you were responding to this kind of immediate felt need, but the bigger thing is that it wasn't just something, how should I phrase this? It's something that was formed with intentional community, right? So there was this fun aspect to it, the excitement with it.
Sure.
And I feel like right now a lot of our conversations are heavy, they're deep, they're extremely polarizing right now, right? Like either you line up on one side or the other. And I don't want to actually talk about politics pretty much at all on the show because you have your views, I have my views. I think what's more intriguing and what you've already even started sharing about is not how can I affect other people through voting once every couple of years, right? Because that's the action step that I can take on politics, by and large. But to me, it's more, how can my values and how can these inner thoughts that I have help me be a more whole human being, right? We can't legislate being a good, decent human being. So what can we do? We can become more active in this community. And that's what I'm hoping is a result from this show. So thanks again for taking part. How did kind of everything come together, right? So it wasn't just you 3 working together for the past 11 years.
Well, what technically happened was, without getting all the content, but essentially we saw an opportunity. We came together and we said, this feels like it could be exciting. I have never thought about being a caterer for my whole life. That's not, again, we all had particular early 20-year-old visions of what we were going to accelerate to do. And it wasn't, catering wasn't on the docket for any of us as a business model, nor were we necessarily thinking of being business owners. But when we saw this opportunity and we saw the desperate need in our North Shore community in particular and the Boston area for catered events that had little to no waste from a trash perspective, ethical sourcing practices for the food, community that was being built for the team, which then spilled into the events and the guest experiences, was just, it was glaring in front of us as this opportunity that we could latch onto, get excited about, feel like we were filling a void, feel like there was an opportunity to create a viable business. And so what we sat down to do in the beginning is not just talk about the things that excited us and how it could physically happen, but more so, okay, if we do this, now is the time to start it from a place of values, and let's list those and let's name this thing something other than our names or our last names so that it can be something that grows to be bigger than the 3 of us. So there was a lot of intention up front, even though we didn't sit down and say, let's build a business and launch it. It was a reaction to an opportunity we saw. But before we did go full throttle, there was a lot of talk. And I would say that those values carried us until now. And it feels like in a lot of ways the business is still alive, even though we're choosing to close this wing of it, this chapter of it. But I really can't say enough that those two things, being open to opportunity, grasping at the opportunity, and then taking a chance to craft it into what feels genuine and authentic and good, and then using those values to create stakes in the ground over year after year after year as you bring on new people to be a part of building it with you and for you. So that's been the coolest part.
Yeah.
Honestly, the people.
Well, and I should probably disclose to our audience that, so I am a professional DJ, so we've worked numerous events together, which is how we got introduced through Change is Simple. And I think that there is something different and special because you've set that intention, right? And that is probably what attracted the employees that you had, which only added to your success.
Oh, found they did.
Yeah. For anyone just tuning in, my name is Jay Foss. You are listening to Raising Your Inner Voice. And this evening we are speaking with Jen Freedson, who was the one of the co-founders of Chive Sustainable Events and Catering. And we're just kind of delving into where Chive came from. How did the name itself come about? I'm assuming that's the extension of the values side.
It is. We were sitting on the back porch of Lindsay's apartment at the time, 12 years ago-ish. And it was really late winter, early spring, and there was still snow on the ground. It was a sunny day. We were all, those early spring New England mornings when it just feels like you finally see sunshine. It's been gray for months, and we're in sweaters. We're trying to pretend like we're sunbasking, and we look over, and one of us saw in a terracotta pot that was broken that had, still snow in it. Chives were starting to burst through the snow and the ice in the pot. And it wasn't in that moment that we realized that was our name. It was overnight. Edible Boston, which is this great local publication, had a bundle of bursting open chives on the cover. And we all happened to look at it, and we had kind of pieced together the sentiments of that image on the front of the cover, the image of what was happening that afternoon or that morning when we were all together on the porch. And we just thought that, boy, if there is a edible symbol of, what we're trying to persevere through and create. It was, by the way, it was 2009. So that was a pretty tough time for the economy.
Absolutely.
So we were starting a business in a downturn. So we just really saw ourselves as, wanting to forge forward. And so the roots represented our values being rooted in the earth and in our environmental practices. The stem represented the edible, portion. It's the most commonly edible portion of the plant. So that really stood for the food piece. And then we've always used design and an attractive way of presenting food and creating events as one of our other trademarks, trying to make local food approachable to people through art, basically. So the bloom, that purple part of the flower that you see at the top of the chive, represented the aesthetic aspect of the business. So it really felt like it told us what it wanted to be that day. So it was cool.
Awesome. And so I'm curious, I'm thinking about success, right? What makes any of the businesses on the North Shore successful? Did you have kind of laid out plans on what success for you looked like?
We would create new ones over the years. I would say in the most recent 3 to 5 years, Lindsay and I really cared a lot about becoming leaders of leaders. So what that means for us is learning how to be excellent at listening, communicating, working through problems, and aligning values, and doing that with a focus on our internal team. So it started with myself and Lindsay herself, the two of us together, and then the trickle-down effect of what that led to for our core team, and then what that then led to our extended team, et cetera, et cetera. And so that was a stake in the ground for us. That was somewhat ambiguous, but really the key was how can we grow as leaders, and then essentially help create the next generation of amazing people who would do good, whether it was with Chive or take that legacy on to other businesses. So that was one. Another was to really break down any barriers of work-life balance, and just say life is life and work is part of my life and I love it, and my kids are a part of our life, and our husbands and our families and our friends. And so we moved to some pretty daring things the past few years with our team. Like our core team had unlimited vacation time, and really no set hours they had to be in and out of the office. And it really worked. It really felt like people leaned into each other and supported one another and got really killer work done at the same time. So I was pretty proud about the inner values. And because I think we focused on those things, a strong financial picture comes, and really quality events come, and excellent values that translate to the quality of the food or the quality of the design just came with the empowered team. So I think that was one of the most exciting things that we set goals for. And I think really at the end, had more than exceeded my expectations. So.
Well, I love it because that's a direct extension, right, of the leader of the leaders type of thinking. Because the first thought in my head as a business owner is, well, but how do you make sure you're staying productive? How do you make sure that people aren't breaking the rules? How do you, right? Kind of all of those logical.
I get that, sure.
Yeah.
Traditional business thinking is an easy thing to lean on, especially when any scenario gets rocky. And I think instead of leaning on a traditional approach to any business issue, we would just lean deeper into each other and our values, and they would inevitably always steer us back. Even it doesn't mean it was easy. There are certainly hard things that you face.
Well, and that's with any challenge that we all face, right? I mean, we have challenges that hopefully will bring us clarity and refinement that will, again, end goal being we are better people as a result of it. Because I think that most people are striving to be better, right? I think we're all striving to be better than we were yesterday, better than necessarily our parents were. Not that it's a competition, but I think there's something to be said there, and having the intention.
Yeah, we're evolutionary people, so
yeah.
We hope we are all evolving on top of the generation before in a positive way, not despite of.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think how we deal with kind of any challenge that's right in front of us. I think a shout out to the creative community, right? Because I think more artists and kind of artistic people are creative with solving problems. And it could be a mundane problem, or it could be something like making sure that we are being equitable and encouraging leadership. And how do you actually encourage leadership? It's by letting people make their own choices, right? Within an organization or a company. I am loving this conversation. You are listening to Raising Your Inner Voice with Jay Foss. Right now, we are speaking with Jennifer Freedson, co-founder of Chive Sustainable Events and Catering. We are going to be back in just a couple moments. I want to hear about COVID and the closing. Just move on up.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you want to join in the conversation live, tune in Sunday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern, northshore1049.com, and click Listen Live. If you're too shy and want to gather your thoughts first, record a voice memo and email it to jay.foss@me.com, because I would love to have your voice in this conversation. What does living a better life mean? And what's your process in figuring that out? If you think someone else might need a conversation like this one, then let them know to get involved.
Thanks so much for joining me this evening. I am speaking with Jen Freedson, and we were actually having a really good conversation off air as well as on air that I do want to continue. But I think this song, right? People get stressed out, and the stress that I have, in fact, it impacts not only what we're talking about, but even how I'm talking and the conversation that we're having. And right now, we're kind of talking about the heaviness of COVID. And Jen recently has actually announced that the company that she co-founded will be closing. I'm going to read a quick note, if that's cool with you, from Facebook that you and Lindsay had posted. After 11 beautiful years, Chive has made the difficult decision to close. We've spent these last weeks reflecting on the many gatherings we've been part of over the years and wondering what Chive's role in all of this is and what our business will look like on the other side. The uncertainty is real, and it has affected our ability to see clearly into the future of events in a way that feels sustainable to our families and team members. For this reason, this will be the end of the road for Chive Events. We've been blessed to have a community who has supported us at every turn. You have shown up to our events, hired us to help throw an awesome party, grown our food, worked alongside us in the kitchen, and helped set the tables. We are endlessly grateful to you for the trust you've given us and the generosity you've shown our team. Thank you. We would not be the business owners we are today without the mentors, team members, farmers, and fellow small business owners we now call friends. We have learned so much along the way. There have been many amazing people that have come to be part of the Chive family, and we thank them all for everything they have shared and given to this business. We are grateful for our own partnership and to our strength and creativity to build again. This will not be the last that you see of us. Stay tuned for what's to come. With patience and solidarity, we will gather again. Until then, we wish you good health and peace to all in this strange time we are living in together. With love and gratitude, Jen and Lindsay. So I have Jen on the line right now. Jen, any response or kind of what were you thinking in closing your business for the last 11 years? Because I know a lot of small business owners, just a lot of people right now are kind of thinking this of, do I double down on what I've been doing, right, pre-COVID? Do I stop doing what I have been doing and kind of take this jump or this leap into this unknown area? Or do I try to, juggle both at the same time?
All fair options. And I'm happy to talk about, where Lindsay and I came from when we made the decision for our business and for ourselves. But first of all, thank you for reading that. It's been a little while since I've read it, and my dear Lindsay wrote it on behalf of the two of us, and it just feels so true and so kind, I guess. So I like hearing it, and it rings really true. And it is interesting because in the past several weeks, multiple people have asked the loaded question of how are you, which I'm sure we're all getting in
Yeah.
time, and it probably sounds a little different than normal days, 4 months ago it would read. But for me, when I hear that question, I honestly say I feel at peace. I feel at peace with the decision that we've made. It feels like it was the right decision. By no means do I want the word right to be confused with easy. It was not an easy decision. It remains to be one that is hard as we, move through what it means to actually close a business. But for us, we had to really weigh, like we always do in our business, being a values-based business, what all the options are, and ultimately what felt most aligned with our values. And at the end of the day, not only do the numbers not lie, I mean, as an events business, we lost at least 4 months of business in general. March, April, May, June were all completely going to, we weren't technically allowed to do any kinds of parties.
Right.
Nor did we ethically feel it would be right to try to propose doing parties during that time of any kind, even just drop-offs. We toyed with are we technically a necessity business, even though we're providing food? So we really had to go back and forth with all of the components. And at the end of the day, sustainability to us doesn't just mean how we source our food or how the things that we do affect the physical environment. It's deeper than that. Sustainability has become this word that is really deeply rooted in the business and all of the facets of it. So it's the way we communicate kindly with each other. It's the way we listen to our clients. It's the way we work to be a financially viable business. So for the foreseeable future, we would have the ability to give quality jobs to our team and ourselves. So it's just so layered and enjoying what we do, especially since catering is such hard work physically, was always an important one. And so when we were faced with, the reality of at least science-based information out there says that until there's a vaccine, which is probably at least a year out still,
Right.
the likelihood of things going back to quote unquote normal are not really an option. So some form of mask wearing, distancing, etc., which is all proving to be true too, now that we've seen other states open up and
Right.
fall back into high numbers, unfortunately. Really, I think what we've got going in Massachusetts is possibly the best it's going to get for a bit. So now this is all obviously my perspective, but with that said, we gather people around food. We sit at close, tight-knit tables. We dance and sweat our butts off on dance floors. Not that these are our guests, but the environment we create opens us all up to feel freeing and connected and special and happy. And those are the kinds of events we love throwing. And there was no way that we would be able to do that this year or even potentially next with the effects of COVID. And then so if we were to try to keep the business alive, it would have meant Lindsay and I starting a prepared food business, which again, the numbers are incredibly hard to actually make work. And that would turn she and I into, more than full-time doing everything again. And it's 11 years in, we've built this team that is layered with skill and energy and positivity and forward momentum to feel like we were stepping so far back for what was likely not even going to work from a financial perspective, not to mention all the emotional, mental, physical strain it would create on ourselves and our families. Just didn't feel worth it. So we really decided to take a hard, early on decide this was a hard decision. But if we do it now, we'll be able to do so as gracefully as possible and have time to evolve a product, a approach to the closing that supports our team and supports our clients and supports our families. And so that's really what we've done our best to do here. And it does, and in that way, it feels like the right decision because we're able to start to close the business and still have a loving, fond memory of what it was 3-4 months ago when it was at its just most incredible peak from my memory. So I'll be able to let it go and still be happy and thrilled with what it was, as opposed to potentially grow resentful of it if the scenario I was talking about earlier was actually what we ended up trying to do.
I'm the
good answer.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect answer. Because I thought of a stupid dad joke because I feel like whenever you wade into like heavy conversations, lame jokes always work well at keeping things light because you can't get too serious and like bogged down in all this junk.
No.
So I was going to say you're depressing me because you're telling me that sustainability is not sustainable. But in fact, what you're telling me is this is how you are sustaining it within your life. So you're embodying that value, right?
And those killer people who work with us are taking those things on to what's next. And we really felt that in the announcement was just this outpouring of team members in particular and clients who just, said how much they took from their time with us and how they're pouring that into the world. So that spider web effect that we always hoped we could have may have been bigger than we thought it was. So
well, and that's the beauty of paying it forward to other people in this community is it's keeping that framework around this community, but the whole goal and eventuality of it is that it will be something bigger and broader and something that hopefully you're not going to even see the benefit of.
Right. Agreed.
So
Yes.
cool.
Yes.
Awesome.
Like it.
So were you waiving? This was a difficult decision for you to come to, obviously, right?
Yes.
How long were you grappling with this? Because, I mean, since this is affecting our reality for the foreseeable future of at least the next, 6 months to a year minimum, right?
Yep.
Or a more accurate way of saying it would be, who knows? How?
Right. Just the unknown.
Yeah. How long did you? I mean, I'm sure it seemed like an eternity, right? That you were actually kind of grappling with this, but you found peace with your actual decision.
We did. We found peace pretty quickly with the decision. Again, not that it was easy, but I think it was about a week that we took to explore all options. So number crunching, deep emotional conversations, glasses of wine, helping us sit we good with each other, and thinking of all the scenarios, and ultimately the hardest but most gracious in a lot of ways decision felt like it really was to make the choice to close. Otherwise we would have had to turn Chive into something it absolutely wasn't, by being this is none of this is judgment on any other business that's out there, but sustainability is a very important part of our model, and we spent a lot of energy on being zero waste and doing everything we could to minimize our impact on the environment. And if we had turned it to a prepared food business and it was just the two of us, we already talked about the emotional and physical things that it could have had a toll on Lindsay and I and our families, but because the numbers wouldn't have worked out for us to have additional people with us,
right,
doing all that, which again I mentioned earlier, but also then the packaging that would have to go along with turning it into a different business, and our client base is North Shore spread out. It's not just specifically Beverly. So just a lot of things would have been going against us in trying to pivot in that way. And it just felt like so much effort to turn the business into something it wasn't. We wouldn't have been honoring that it was the people that made it, that it was the, all of the things that we'd created with others, really.
Mm-hmm.
And especially at that point 4 months ago, when our core team and our extended team was just so insanely incredible and humming along, that to lose them and have it become just Lindsay and I just didn't feel like honoring the business. The gracious thing to do felt like sadly closing.
Yeah. Wow.
And we'll create something else. We don't have a very definitive plan that we're talking about to other people yet, but
Mm-hmm.
we know we're creators, and we know that we want to be in business together, and that we love working with each other. We complement each other. So we feel excited to be able to take some space and enjoy our young kids, and then start creating again when it feels like the world's ready.
Perfect. That's great. Yeah. And I'm happy that you vocalized that there is no judgment on anyone else, right, who is doubling down on their business. Because
Definitely.
I think that many times when someone does something different than us, it seems like there's an implied judgment, or I don't even know if judgment is the right word, but even internally, it seems like there's a comparison, at least, at the very least. And if we're all striving to be our best selves that we can be, I mean, I don't play golf. I've heard that golf is a game where you are playing yourself, right? So it's to be better than how you were playing before. I played rugby, and rugby, it's a sport where you get together with the opposing team afterwards at a drink up and share a drink and talk about the match that you played, right? So it kind of has that similar mentality of you're playing yourself. I mean, if your goal is to make better decisions, I'm not highlighting you on today's show so that way this is a decision that everyone else needs to make. It's the opposite.
No.
I'm hoping that people can take from this that they are utilizing the space that we have due to this pandemic and listening and acting out of a genuine role. Because, I mean, we're all searching for what we should be doing next. So I'm happy to hear that you are going to be spending more time with the family. And I am happy to hear that if listeners want to call in and either share your experience, we're going to take a quick break right now. But when we come back, we're going to hear more from Jen Freedson of Chive Catering and Events, and hopefully more from you as a listener, and see how you're dealing with all of this that's going on in our world right now. So we'll be right back. Again, I'm Jay Foss, and thanks for joining me and joining us this lovely Sunday evening.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you want to join in the conversation live, tune in Sunday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern, NorthShore1049.com, and click Listen Live. If you're too shy and want to gather your thoughts first, record a voice memo and email it to jay.foss@me.com, because I would love to have your voice in this conversation. What does living a better life mean? And what's your process in figuring that out? If you think someone else might need a conversation like this one, then let them know to get involved.
Hey, party people, Jay Foss here, and we are all trying to find a balance here on the North Shore. Really, anywhere that you are listening online, NorthShore1049.com. But we're talking with Jen Freedson of Chive Sustainable Events and Catering. I guess I should be saying formally now that I think about it, because they have decided to close. But on the line, we happen to have Miss Jackie from Jackie's Teas. Hey, Jackie, how's it going?
Hi, Jay. It's going okay. Thank you. Thank you for having this show, too. This is excellent.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for calling in. So how are you dealing with all that's happening in our world right now?
Right. Well, luckily, a lot of people want shirts that say COVID on it. So I hate to say, we've been able to stay afloat just based on, T-shirts and the trends are what, people want.
That's great.
That have words on them.
Absolutely.
So we're okay.
Is business busier than usual right now, or are you still down?
Well, once we were able to have curbside pickup, everything was able to, we picked up literally business because people could actually, stop in front of the shop and we run out the shirts right to their car. So, that helped a lot. And so that increased our business.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Have you gotten any assistance with any local help or anything?
Yes, and that is what I really wanted to say is a shout out to Beverly Main Street. They provided access to grants to the local business community in general. The specific one that we got, thanks to, I wrote down the note what it's called, LISC.org, which is based out of Boston, but Beverly Main Street found it for us, Local Initiative Support Corporation. And they gave several of us Beverly businesses, a little boost in order to keep us going, with just the utilities and some of the basic necessities. And again, that was directly because of Main Street, Jen and Heather, and the mayor as well is where I first found out about a tweet that he put out. And it's just so many organizations that want to help, that want to make sure local businesses are doing okay, that one included. And just local people that want to make sure that we're doing okay just by ordering a shirt that they might not have otherwise ordered.
Yeah.
But the the support local business website that Jen has put up, also big help so that we know who's now open. I think that's what it's called, Open Beverly.
Yeah.
It's been helpful.
Well,
OpenBeverly.org.
I think that's where a lot of, in our community, and I think it ties in very well with exactly what Jen's talking about, is we're all in this community together. We're all going through this pandemic together, right? we're in different boats, we're in different parts of the storm, and realistically, we are going to have different outcomes. But how can we actually support each other in the decisions that we're making? So that's great to hear that you're getting so much support from the community.
Yeah, and just the fact that now we can do like outdoor seating. Some of the restaurants now, people are sitting outside. It's like we're all coming together because we can see each other, literally, eating dinner in the streets. So I just think it's great that we take some of the things that have brought us down, find a silver lining, and make things better.
Yeah.
And that's what this has done.
I agree. And the interesting thing for me is, right, everyone has different comfort levels. So some people are still just now getting out to even just do takeout. Some people are now going out to eat. I think now we can even do inside dining at some locations as long as it's all spread out and all of that. So people have different comfort levels. And the best thing you can do is listen to yourself and respond accordingly. And if you're in a place that you do feel uncomfortable, know that and adjust. Or if you're in a restaurant that you feel uncomfortable, just talk to the management. I'm sure they're going to be very open and receptive to making sure that you are a happy customer. Because people who are in these businesses, it's typically about the customer. That's why you're doing what you're doing.
True. Yeah, and some of the patios that have just been built anyway for people that do feel uncomfortable still sitting in a closed indoor environment, like Greg's Diner, just a shout out, done an amazing job with their patio out back. I think even Indo has a patio on Cabot. And that hopefully this can all be continued so that we can always dine outside because it really is a lovely place to be.
Right. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. Yes,
that'd be a good change. Awesome. Well, thanks.
Jacob's Corner down the street here also has like cement dividers in the street, so it looks like they'll soon be putting out chairs right here on Rantoul Street, which makes everything just so much more fun.
Perfect.
That's right. Old Planters also, they're going to have outdoor dining at the brewery.
It's incredible, right? I mean, we're all getting creative with this. Thanks so much for checking in, Jackie.
All right, Jay. Thanks for the show. I'll keep listening.
All right, be well. All right, Jen, I'm going to turn things over back to you. Yeah, I mean, isn't this great, right? It goes back to kind of that creative bent. And I think a lot of people actually don't even realize that they have that creative potential to voice their opinion and get it out. So that way, now we can actually do more dining on the sidewalks or
right.
Yeah, figure out a way that they can actually cater to customers. Go ahead.
Well, sorry for cutting you off. I was just getting excited because I think that the word close could feel really ominous. But when I was saying I feel sort of a sense of peace from this decision, it's because we didn't make it lightly. And ultimately, it's because we want to continue to remain inspired so that whatever we do next affects the community and everybody, and ourselves in that positive way that we know is so exciting and that our team was so killer at doing. So I think that is exciting to hear people like Jackie who are on that end of the spectrum, who can remain enthusiastic, in love with, and viable as a business. And for anyone who's not saying our decision is the right decision for you, but there's something about facing the fear of something that seems so scary, like the word closing, but that there's a lot of freedom if in the end of the day it is the right choice for you, because what comes after making that choice is the exciting sort of new horizon part of it all.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like
people, if it's right for people.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and many times I bring up, I think many times I depress people. I bring up the fact that, right, this is the only life that we have and we're not going to live forever. I actually am encouraged from that statement because it doubles down on exactly what you're talking about. So therefore, we need to get creative. We need to make sure that if you want to make an impact, let's make it happen. Now is the time to live your life.
Yes, it's a very empowering as opposed to sort of squashing feeling that you can lean into and do pretty cool stuff. So
yeah, very expanding.
I do love that whole very Euro feeling vibe that's happening with all of the restaurants opening up and spilling into the streets, and I hope it stays also. Yeah.
Well, and that's I mean, I agree completely. It would be really cool. Beverly is such a unique place, but I mean, there's so many other towns that are doing similar things. Yeah. Really inspiring. I do have a clip I want to play to kind of close out the show in a couple minutes. I just wanted to first check with you and see any closing thoughts, anything you want to, that you feel like we haven't talked about that is something that you want to address.
I mean, I think that, again, kind of playing off of that reflection of what COVID may have brought to many people. I know it did to me and it did to our team, which is this sense of pause and reflection, both inwardly and outwardly, and sort of saying, what do I like about this slow time? What is not in line with what I hope for my life or my business? And how can I go after creating exactly what I want my life to be? And I think that that's what our team has worked on in such a dedicated way for the past 11 years, and moving into this next phase, Molly, Holly, Delphine, Gina, all the incredible women that stood beside and with Lindsay and I in making the business what it's been these past several years. We're all in this phase of, we don't know exactly what we want to do yet, but because we've found excitement in the opportunity, because we've learned that we are empowered people who will support one another, that know how to ask for what we need. And I don't mean that in any kind of like pat on the back way. It's just, it really feels liberating to know that the world is our oysters and we can share that together. And we hopefully want, my point in saying that is more to hopefully inspire other people to see that aspect of it too. Again, it doesn't mean it's easy to jump into a new way of life, but if you can look at it as crafting the life you want to live, and taking opportunity and turning that into something that makes you feel happy and motivated and sustained in all the ways. It's pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the ladies do, and hopefully they don't get too deep into anything with anybody else, so that I can poach them back once we eventually start a new business.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Because you're already on the same page. That's great.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it's so funny because to me, I think female empowerment is an awesome thing. And I say that as a man because I have two sisters. I have a mom. I have a wife, right? Like, I have plenty of women in my life who it's like, I need them to be operating the best that they can be at, so that I have space for me to operate the best that I can be at. And I think that kind of highlighting the differences and making sure that we are all striving and kind of going towards that wholeness aspect and doing what we can do to make it happen is something that is encouraging. So, Jen Freedson, thank you so much for being my guest this evening. I've loved our chatting, and I hope that you as listeners have gotten something. I don't know, give me a call one Sunday evening. Give me some pushback. I'm actually not afraid of conflict at all, because that's kind of the whole point of it all. Though the show is wrapping up, I did want to leave on a high note and a message from a production company called M Vision Productions. I came across this video because of the North Shore Creative Collective, so shout out to them. Thank you so much for kind of being in this collective community of artists together. And I just thought that this was a really hopeful and encouraging message that I wanted to leave us all on this evening. Jen, thanks so much. And a shout out to JC Morales from Fabrica Studios. He has been my branding Sherpa along this ride. So, hey, JC, we did it. And to Pamela, thanks for putting the kids to bed tonight. I appreciate you. All right. Until we chat again soon, which I hope it will be soon, be kind with yourself and share that kindness with others.